How you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Let's start with you.
Perfect. You're the first.
All right. Look at me. Do I get a fist bump for that?
Guerra.
All right. So Carolina, we know nothing about your character because you're new.
Yes.
So what can you tell us about your character?
Little.
Of course.
Yeah.
Tell us as little as possible. That didn't come out right. But
Ima. That's it.
all right. Great.
Spoiler.
Ima, yeah. Her name is Ima Kama. She's a high priestess of the children of the sun. That's how they called the villagers of the Inca Empire. She wants the Book of Leaves as well. She needs the Book of Leaves. She doesn't want, she needs the Book of Leaves in order to protect her people. White men are coming to their lands, and they're all very aware of the threat that they represent. So she wants the Book of Leaves as well, but she needs to team up. So it's that kind of relationship. She needs them, but she's afraid of them. And that's one of the most beautiful things of my character, like her capacity of sacrifice and fearless, just to protect her people. So she is a wonderful, wonderful character to play, and she is going to team up with them.
Great. And Blake, what can you tell us about your character's journey for season 2?
It's epic. It's pretty epic. So I think in the first season, we see Riario largely in his comfort zone. He's got all the political and military kind of backing of the Vatican. He's counting captain of the Holy Roman Church. He's basically got an army behind him. And this season, he's in the aftermath of all the turmoil of the Pazzi conspiracy, both Riario and Da Vinci are convinced that the Book of Leaves is the answer. That somehow this arcane compendium of forgotten knowledge is the only thing that will kind of settle this terrible political turmoil. So I'm launched off in this race across the Atlantic to the New World, and I'm so out of my comfort zone, Riario, this year. So he is, it's almost like the trials of Job. He's pushed to absolute breaking point physically and mentally and spiritually. We really glimpse into the darkest recesses of his soul. There's a new emotional rawness, there's a new ferocity, there's a new amorous side, which is lovely.
Yeah.
But we it's a big old journey, and there are a few flashbacks where we begin to fill in some of the backstories, specifically with Lucretia, that are kind of hinted at darkly in the first series. So yeah, it's a big old journey. I think for a lot of characters this season, they're really pushed to breaking point. It's one of the defining features of this series. I think this time around is everyone is just pushed beyond measure, and it's fun. And new alliances, what you were talking about, characters you don't expect to team up are forced into these kind of grudging, queasy alliances. So Riario and Da Vinci, for example, are forced to team up this year, and you never know how much they're playing one another, and it's the odd couple. You wouldn't expect them to get on, and ideologically they're so diametrically opposed, but they are forced to coexist and to rely on one another, and it takes both characters to very interesting and unexpected places.
And that's also what happens between the New World and them.
Right.
There's that same relationship.
Yeah. Right.
It's amazing.
Because the Book of Leaves is going to be what kind of brings you back into conflict a little bit?
Well, in a way, for both of us, I think the Book of Leaves is the Holy Grail. This is the artifact. Whoever can lay their mitts on this will effectively be able to rule Italy, if not the world. So it's a big prize, and both Da Vinci and Riario are after it. What they will do with it when they get to it is probably entirely different, but there are various moments where they are at least forged on the same quest together, and I think they're thinking, we'll decide later what happens with the Book of Leaves, but in those moments they are forced to kind of coexist.
Well, you said amorous side. Does that have anything?
We can't talk.
Who knows?
We can't say.
Because I wonder perhaps you were paired because of this.
Who knows? Interesting. Or maybe it's me in the bottle.
David earlier said you guys could tell us anything that you wanted to.
I've actually got the copy of all the scripts.
Carolina, you have obviously a large background in Spanish television.
Yes.
And now you're coming on to an English language production. What are the differences in this show with what you've done in the past?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
All about it. Well, of course, language. I'd never thought my first international TV production would be in Europe. Mm-hmm. You'd think it would be the States, but it was in Europe, so that was very surprising. And also the fact that it's like a historical post production. That makes the story, like spin around. It's been amazing. It's been amazing. I've learned so much about everything. I had to talk English in a different way. I had to talk Quechua. So it's like a lot of new things, but it's been one of the most amazing experiences ever. Like how often does a person has this first chance, like in the David Goyer production, you can't get luckier than that. So I feel like very blessed, very lucky, and I had so much support from every single person, from the cast, from the crew. So I'm just grateful for everything.
What was it like preparing for the role of being Mother?
It was a lot of work. We didn't have a lot of time for that, but it was hard work. We worked with the Quechua expert, an anthropologist, who lived in Bolivia and in Peru, so she perfectly speaks Quechua and Aymara. We also worked with a choreographer because the movements, they're completely different. They walk different. They speak in a different rhythm. So like those were like the main focus at the beginning, and then after a while you're just into it. Costumes and sets, they're so helpful for you to get in the mood. I'd say that was like the main thing, like the Quechua and like the corporal thing.
Caroline is underselling how brilliant she was. She had these epic Quechuan speeches, which she would do shivering away doing night shoots in Swansea with a kind of many goosebumps. But she did brilliantly, really, really brilliantly.
So this is a show that is obviously fiction, but it's based in history.
Yeah, it's a historical fantasy is how we kind of think of it.
So have you guys found the need to do a lot of research about the time period and stuff like that, or is it more trust in the script and go from there?
It's like, it depends on how you like to work. Like you can totally rely on the script, but I feel safer if I do my research. I read like a shaman book, and we also learn a lot about like Inca history and stuff like that.
The world, as from the scripts, is a whole coherent universe which has its own laws and its logics. But I research because I love it, and I know David Goyer and all the writing team have done encyclopedic amounts of research, and they glean interesting facts. And, it's amazing how much of it actually is based on some historical truth. So I looked into the nature of 15th century fundamentalism, and obviously the characters that are real, such as Sixtus, who is absolutely a monster. He comes off pretty well in the show. The real Sixtus, I think, was worse. He tried to introduce satanic high mass and human sacrifice, which was nice. He was incestuous, a rapist. He tried to turn nunneries into brothels. He was an all-round good guy. But no, it's instructive, and it's really useful having flesh on the bone when you want to, have something to fall back on. But if you ever talk to the writers or David, they know everything about your characters. I remember being struck before we ever started the first series, having a chat with David, and he knows where every character's arc is going to go for 3, 4, 5, 6 series if you're lucky enough to get there. So in a way, it gives you a great bedrock. There's a great foundation to kind of build characters, and I think that's why he has such a great handle on creating characters that become iconic, is because there is this dark mystery to them, but they are layered. They all have, it's called Da Vinci's demons, but so many of the characters in the show have their demons actually, and it's what makes them these wonderful, complex, rich, living, breathing characters rather than ciphers. And I think it's one of the great joys of the show is the quality of writing for the characters.
Was there a really interesting factoid you found out that you want to share with us during the research?
I'm sorry, can you read that?
Any interesting fact you want to share from the research?
There were so many interesting. One common conception in the late 15th century is that humans were in the 6th and final age of man, and the apocalypse was upon them. So if you were a religious fundamentalist, as Riario kind of is, the world is about to end. So I think it just changes the way you play in terms of the stakes of, everything is about to come collapsing on your head. You better be on the right side. You better be supporting God Almighty when the final judgment calls, because it could be any day. And I think it just, changes the stakes somehow.
So with the show, obviously, as Richie talked about, all this light material, religious fundamentals in the end of the world. What's the atmosphere like on set? Do you guys have time to have fun too, or is it just all work, no play?
It's incredibly fun. It's too much fun. It's like a terribly kind of family atmosphere. It's all the scenes we have, the people are delightful. There's a lot of laughing on set, a lot of very beautiful takes ruined by people laughing on set. I'm not looking at anyone but Greg Chillin, you. It's lovely. It's a joy. You know, you just look forward to coming to work every day. Look forward to hanging out with your friends, and scenes evolve. That's the lovely thing with this cast is you start a scene and you rehearse it, and everyone comes up with ideas. It's a really collaborative atmosphere. And scenes just kind of evolve in the playing of it, and the scene as you rehearse it and the scene as it finishes is often entirely different. And everyone just throws in ideas, and it's terrific. It's a really wonderful working environment. I mean, obviously we bullied Carolina relentlessly. And,
Yeah.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Thank you very